Start recording?
Mute
Okay.
my phone.
Yeah, my phone's on my bed and muted, so
Yeah, mine's mute. Well,
that
mine's
much
always
is...
silent now. It just won't buzz as well.
Yeah. Alright, cool. Well, I'm ready.
Me too.
Alright, let's kick this thing off then. Episode 84.
Are we gonna clap?
Oh, yeah. We do need to do that. 3, 2, 1.
Perfect.
Excellent. Alright, cool. And now we will bring it live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to episode 84 of PauseCast. It is June the 1st, 2018. I am Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Hanna. I use he, him. Welcome.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
So I'm gonna start this episode off with a little something unconventional, shall we say?
Okay.
Normally, I name our show based on things that we say kind of naturally, during the course of the episode. I'd like to name this episode right off the bat.
Okay. What do you got?
Leak Week.
Leak week.
Yep, welcome to E3 Leak Week.
There's a whole bunch of stuff leaked. I've seen a few new things.
A bunch of stuff is leaked.
Okay, I'm sure you will know a lot more about that than me. I've seen some of the new stuff. I don't keep fully track of stuff that's been announced versus leaked, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, several of those leaks turned into announcements very shortly afterwards. So, very little difference at this point. Like, we're looking at, if we were to look at, like, the past couple of weeks, Walmart Canada accidentally leaked a bunch of stuff at one point.
Okay, I wasn't expecting to go there.
Some developers have...
Was that a leak as in, like, they had retail stock that went up on
as
the website
in, yeah,
or something?
they added it to the stock database. And so it started showing up. Just fucking everywhere. So, like, Rage 2 was one of the things that was in there, which was a game that nobody expected was ever going to get a sequel. Sure enough, the Rage Twitter reactivated and made a little graphic pointing out, oh, you got the cover art all wrong, you fucks. And then announced it like 3 days later.
Is that a game that you'd played? I haven't played that.
I played the original Rage.
Was it
only for a little bit, though.
Was it sequel worthy, do you think?
I don't know that it is.
Okay.
I think a lot of people felt that it was mediocre at best and didn't necessarily deserve a sequel. It came out to kind of middling reviews and stuff like that, but it looks like the sequel is trying to take a new tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of interested in seeing where that goes.
Cool. Hopefully it's a step up from the original then.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are taking on new tones, Fallout. You hear about Fallout?
Yeah. I'm sad.
Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to get into it later?
I have no real preference when we get into that. Should we do it now?
Yeah, let's fucking do it now, and then we can talk about we're gonna break the formula. We're all off the rails. I named the episode right off the bat, so the rails are gone. Yeah, let's talk Fallout. Fallout was a thing that announced Fallout 76. Gonna be a prequel, as far as we currently know. It's kind of the rumor floating around.
Yeah, and what I've seen is that it's likely set a few decades after the apocalypse, rather than a couple of hundred years after, like, the most recent mainline games.
Yeah, and it's set in Vault 76, which is a control vault. You start out in it, at least. Which means that, unlike most of the other vaults across the wastelands, there are no experiments being performed. It's just a completely normal vault.
There's there's so many things I'm disappointed about in this and what we know about this game, and that's one of them.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I always felt that. Oh no, okay. It feels like they're doing that partly to genericize the Vault, I guess. I don't know. I don't like the whole multiplayer aspect of it at all. I don't think it's Bethesda's strong suit making.
Oh, we haven't even touched on that.
No, I know.
So one other part of these Fallout 76 rumors is that it will be a online survival game of some nature, similar to, or potentially similar to games like Rust or Ark Survival Evolved. Gotta say, don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I liked a lot of the survival elements they put into Fallout 4. I don't want to play one of those games multiplayer.
Yeah, I think it has potential. I don't know that it is gonna be good, but it does have potential to be interesting, especially if they can keep some narrative focus. Keep the narrative focus and atmosphere that Fallout is largely known for.
That's the thing. I am not expecting a narrative focus at all.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, with these rumors floating around, I'm also not expecting that at all. I would just hope, that this is like my dream wish list, I guess, for Fallout 76 would be that it would be just as narrative focused as everything else. You'd still be able to use things like VATS. Like, I would hope that all of these things would be true, and that I could also see potential for, expanding the city building stuff that's in Fallout 4 and making it a little bit better, cleaning it up, if that's going to be the focus of it. But I don't know that it's going to be for me.
Yeah, I'm being very selfish in my disappointment. There are probably a bunch of people that are excited about this, but it really sounds like not the kind of game I'll be into. Which, when Bethesda develops games, I tend to want to play them, particularly the Elder Scrolls games, and the Fallout games that they've released have typically been based off very similar engines to that, like slightly modified the same engine. So you can do a lot of the same type of gameplay. I mean, it's guns instead of swords and magic, but the engines are very similar, and I've enjoyed playing with those. So the fact that they're taking this away from that means, for me, they're taking a setting I didn't really care that much about away from gameplay style that I enjoyed and putting in a gameplay style that I don't enjoy. So it's kind of, well, I'm wondering why I should bother now.
Which I think is fair enough. Maya Bird says it's like Skyrim with guns. Which is... I mean, yeah, basically. There's the same amount of player choice in the more recent Fallout games, if you really think about it.
How do you mean?
In terms of, like, main narrative, there's not a ton of choice going on. There's maybe a faction choice, but it's nothing like, Telltale levels of player freedom. Well, even Telltale is totally on rails, but like not that same level of choice,
To be fair though, speaking again, just being really selfish, talking about how I personally play these games, though I like that they've got some sort of narrative focus, I never have finished one of these stories. I've always gone off the rails and enjoyed that. So it is nice, I think, that they tend to give a world to inhabit, and it sounds like they're still doing that. Just, honestly, it's the multiplayer aspect that really doesn't appeal to me, and in my experience, when games have a big focus on multiplayer like that, even if you can play it on your own, the way that's going to feed through into all the different gameplay elements is just going to make it feel not fun for me.
I mean, the way that I kind of envision that working would be if you had basically just a straight co-op instance, I guess. Where you could cooperate with other people, but also just turn that off and still play the game on its own, and it has its own story, all that. You could do the story in co-op, that would be nice. I would appreciate stuff like that, but again, like I just don't think it's really gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, we still don't know much about it. It could turn out that this will be a game that I'll really enjoy playing alone and with friends. I'm hoping it will. I'm just haven't been excited by the initial announcement.
Yeah. Mybird says, Bethesda games are really nice, but they suffer from focusing on the player too much. Nice thing about New Vegas was you could approach people and they're like, who the fuck are you? Fuck off. And Fallout 76 has potential for that to happen again. But, like, I think that it totally does have the potential for that to happen, except it's happening with real people, and that's maybe a little bit more... I don't like the potential of that. I like the static NPC use of like faction reputations that was all throughout Fallout New Vegas. But I think once you start getting real people involved, things are going to get a lot messier.
Yeah, I agree with that aspect of having too much player focus, and it's nice to feel like you're inhabiting a world that isn't completely revolving around you. One of the things that I really liked about the survival aspects of Fallout 4 was being able to just find some place to set up as my home kind of thing. And I feel like if this is a shared instance with a bunch of other people, this doesn't seem likely to be as feasible to do something like that. And if there's a game aimed at survival, that is probably the sort of thing I would like to be able to do in it, especially if it has building elements, which sounds like it's going to.
Yeah.
So again, don't know enough to say for sure I'm not going to enjoy it, but I'm worried.
I think understandably at that, like, I think a lot of people are apprehensive about Fallout 76 being a potential multiplayer thing. I think enough people are excited about it, but there's definitely a lot of trepidation from the folks I've seen who normally play these types of games. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
I also worry about just the way multiplayer always brings in a really high ceiling and often a lot of grinding. And if there's a game that I want to be able to enjoy in single player, I don't want to have to do a whole shit ton of grinding to get to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because grinding is never something I've enjoyed in Fallout games. I've enjoyed being able to go explore, and yeah, some things are dangerous, but it's fine, and not I have to spend 30 hours leveling up before I can do something.
Yeah. Well, speaking of grinding...
Okay.
I got something that fits in that category, but let's break into what you've been playing this week.
Okay. I finished this main story of Battletech, and I've played a little post-main story. And I also, just tonight, have played a little bit of Monster Hunter to have a look at the new returning monster that they've now added. How about you?
I have been playing... I finished SteamWorld Dig 2, which is a very good game.
Mm-hmm.
I have been playing Fallout New Vegas, which I'll talk a little bit more in depth about, because regular listeners to the show may remember that I have some takes on, or had some takes on Fallout New Vegas and why it didn't work for me. So I'm playing it again.
Mm-hmm.
I have some updates to the takes. I've been playing Destiny 2 quite a bit more as well. I have a real endgame pursuit right now, which is kind of weird because I don't really get into this type of game deep enough usually to have a real like high level pursuit. But I've got one this time.
That's good.
Destiny's got a really cool ship that is behind a lot of endgame content that I'm going to be I will probably do week to week with friends anyway.
Cool.
For those who play Destiny, Zavala, the strike commander, has a ship at level 50. So you have to get 50 engrams redeemed through him, which means you have to do a lot of strikes, be that heroics or the Nightfall. So
I still find
I
it
am
wild that Destiny went with engrams for their thing when, as far as I know, that word originated with Scientology. It might not have, but I know it's used heavily by them. Anyway, complete aside.
That's certainly an aside. Yeah, I'm pursuing the ship that Zavala has this season, so gonna be doing a lot of strikes. It's gonna be a good time. I've also been playing Persona 5, and that game's still good, as it turns out. Narrative twists have kind of kept coming and coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's had some more varied. It's had more varied palaces, which is great. Things are starting to get a little bit more interesting on that front. And there's some really, really light puzzle work and investigation stuff that I can do optionally on the side. That's really drawing me in.
Cool.
It's keeping me right up in there. It's great.
Is there one of these dungeons at a time, or can you have multiple available at a time?
So let's explain how Persona 5 works a little bit here.
So I remember only the basics of it because I haven't played it myself.
Yeah. Persona, typically you will have one dungeon at a time that you can access.
Okay.
And it is only available to a certain date, at which point you must have completed the dungeon or the game will end. So you have a certain amount of time to do those dungeons, how you spend the days getting ready for that, and after you complete it as well, there's still a little bit of time to burn down after that. You'd only have that one major dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Persona 5 also has a set of dungeons called mementos, and what mementos are is they are a randomly generated dungeon, which is kind of in the style of Persona 3 and 4's dungeons, where they were all randomly generated.
Is that where you can go do some extra leveling up or something?
Yep, and you can find personas that you hadn't previously captured.
Mm-hmm.
There are bosses that appear in mementos that aren't related to the palace, but are related to the end goal of your group.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're not randomly generated bosses that are just more powerful versions of monsters or anything. They're like side bosses.
Yeah, they're side bosses, which are still more powerful versions of the stuff that you've been facing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're generated. They're fixed content. They will always be that thing, and they will always spawn in this area of the dungeon.
Right. So the dungeons have got some stuff that's fixed, and then the corridors around it are generated or something.
Yeah, that's basically correct.
Okay.
It's a cool system, and it leads into some of that investigation stuff that I was mentioning a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of that is just, we've received info that this is happening in the city. Can you go dig into it a little bit? And so it will require you to fulfill specific conditions, whether that's being at a certain place in the evening or working your job until you get the information. That is it's very lightweight investigation stuff, but it's still varied and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that then leads into, we've gotten a name, now we can go hunt down this target in the mementos.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I've been playing. What do you think you want to talk about next here?
So
dig into New Vegas, or do you have something you want to dig into?
I mean, I've got I can dig more into the stuff I've played. I don't mind the order we do things in.
Sure, let's.
I thought since we were doing things unconventionally, I'd let you go into the stuff you've been playing first. Is why I skipped mine quite fast.
All right. Let's hear what you have to say about the stuff you've been playing.
Okay. So the main thing I've been playing this week is more BattleTech. I finished the main story. And it was annoying because the game crashed right after I finished the final mission, and it was like loading the post-mission cutscene.
Oh no!
So that was great, and then it turns out the last save was 20 minutes earlier, so I had to redo the last mission. Yeah, that really took a lot of the gravitas out of the moment, I suppose. You know? It kind of takes you out of the game when you're just frustrated because you have to do it again because it crashed, instead of excited because you're finishing the story. But that was fine. I don't actually feel it was the most interesting of the story missions. I feel like some of the other ones had more interesting challenges. And then I've done, I think, 3 missions post-story, and I'm kind of disappointed. I feel like it's suffering from the Oblivion problem, where once you've spent enough time leveling up in this game, every random person living in a cave has a full-on set of legendary armor and weaponry. So now, all the little missions I do that are fighting some tiny pirate group, they've got like 5 assault mechs. And it's taken a lot of the variety out. I've played 2 missions at full difficulty now, which seems like it's only available post-story, the 5 skulls. And then I've played one that's 3 skulls, which you can do like halfway through. But all 3 of those had only assault mechs as the enemies, so even the 3 skull one had only assault mechs, which I had not expected.
Assault mechs are the highest tier.
Yeah, so there's light, medium, heavy, and assault, and you don't see any heavy mechs until a certain point of the story, and you don't see any assault mechs until a certain later point in the story. The overall difficulty of each area increases as you progress through the story, rather than being tied to anything about you in particular. And it might just be that I got unlucky, sort of, with this 3-star mission, and it's totally possible to still find more variety in the remaining missions post-story, but those 3 kind of turned me off.
Right.
They've taken a lot of variety out of it.
Is it just going to turn into the same sort of thing?
Yeah,
over and over, do you think?
It also looks like there are relatively few assault mechs compared with when you've got... So I think there was a sweet spot in the difficulty where you had light, medium, and heavy mechs. Mm-hmm. And that was good, because there's a bunch of each. So there's a lot of variety. Now that it's only using assault, you'll often find that the enemy force has got 2 or 3 of the same mech. So the variety's pulled down a lot, and they're a lot heavier armored, so you might feel like you need to field only assault mechs yourself.
Right.
So one of the things I really like about this game is the variety of mechs. So the fact that late in the game it's taking a lot of that away, I think, is definitely a downside. However, I know this is something they're looking at addressing. They've announced already earlier, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous episode, that they're looking at a patch to come in June or July that, as among other things, is going to address being able to retain areas of lower difficulty that are just sort of this area in space, rather than all of it being tied to your progression through the story, is my understanding, or it might be configurable. So they're looking at addressing it, so that's good.
Okay.
But before they've addressed it, it's been annoying. Like I said, it's like Oblivion, where when you start, everyone's got kind of fur and iron armor and stuff. But as you get stronger, suddenly everyone's wearing glass and Elben and Daedric armor, and it feels kind of contrived, I suppose. Like, it's the same thing in BattleTech, where initially, when you go to scrap against some little pirate group or something, and they've pulled together these shitty light and medium mechs, and it kind of makes sense. And then later on, you're fighting this tiny little pirate organization. They've pulled together some scrappy, not fully armored 5 assault mechs. It's kind of like, what? What? It took me like years to get this myself. Why do they just have this? And it pulls me away from the kind of thing I've been enjoying about this game. I mentioned, I think, last episode or the one before, that it's filled the same niche for me as Mount and Blade, where you just kind of exist in this world.
Yeah.
Whereas the fact that it's so clearly now everything else is progressing up with me is really detracting from that. So I'm looking forward to this patch where hopefully I'll be able to take that away a bit, and maybe, I'll be able to go back to some low difficulty areas and field some of my less experienced mech warriors in some lighter mechs and have more variety again. I honestly wonder if I might start again and just sort of stop once I hit that sweet point of difficulty. So it's definitely more fun when we were consistently seeing 3 different weight classes of mech.
Yeah, that sort of problem has been something that's bothered me in the past about games like Fallout.
Yeah.
Where everything very much, like you mentioned Oblivion as well, but this applies to Fallout, where everything just kind of scales to you, and so
Bethesda's been good at doing that a lot. Oblivion, I think, was just particularly notorious for it.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that sort of leveling approach, I guess. Like, even in Destiny, like, I can go back to the earliest areas in that game, and all of my weapons will do reduced damage to a degree to match up kind of what's being put into the world for lower level players. So it's kind of just real odd. I never really know how I feel about it, because it never feels like, oh yeah, difficulty is definitely going up and the challenge is definitely going up. Few games I feel like are actually really good at that, with the exception of, like, honestly, one of the first things that comes to mind is like Watch Dogs, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs and Metal Gear Solid 5, both of those games increase the difficulty of taking down an individual enemy over time by, like, giving them armor and giving them helmets and, you know, making it really hard to get a headshot on them, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that sort of progression I ultimately like a little bit more, because it pushes me, where the kind of flat progression of a game like a Fallout or Borderlands in the true or ultimate Vault Hunter modes, or Destiny, like it's something that's always bothered me from a game design perspective, and I also don't know how better to solve it, really.
Yeah,
if you want especially for a game like Destiny, where you could totally go back to these older areas and definitely have reason to. So how do you then adjust for having both high and low level players there?
This is something I talked about a lot when I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, because I think it's something that it handled incredibly well. Of you notice yourself getting stronger, but the low level stuff is still a danger if you get caught unawares. And even when you're low level, if you're really skilled, you can beat the high level stuff.
Right.
I think that is like my go-to example of a game that does it really well. Where as well, like, the difficulty of stuff is tied to the area you're in rather than your own specific level. I think that tends to work really well, just in general, in games like this.
Yeah, even like if you're not in true or ultimate Vault Hunter mode in Borderlands, like there are areas of that game that are easy to go through, and then there are areas that are hard because everything's got a fixed level and progression.
Mm-hmm.
It does mean that if you want to go back to an area, though, like, and again, this is another aspect of that design problem. If you go back to another area, everything becomes crushingly easy. And so if you had some story stuff that you were interested in there, it doesn't come with a level of challenge that then feels appropriate.
Yeah, I think, honestly, just the concept of a level, like, I'm level 8, I want to level up to level 9, that and all the numbers, wanting the numbers to increase, that tends to, I think, drive some of this that makes the game feel like it's not doing that in the most fun way. I know that Horizon had levels, but it was, you get skill points rather than increasing stats, increasing damage numbers all the time and stuff. Anything that increased there was fairly slow. Not like, you know, Final Fantasy X, where you start off doing like 12 damage and you end up doing 9999. And then you break past 9999, you're doing like 15,000 damage. Ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Or what was the one? Oh, like Diablo, where you start doing like 6 and you end up doing like 2 billion. That's got a lot of exploding numbers in there.
Yeah.
I think it's generally better when that doesn't happen. And BattleTech doesn't have that problem. a medium laser does the same damage whether it's on a light mech or an assault mech. It's just that you have a better chance to hit and stuff if you've got a better person in there. So I think it handles that really well. It's just the way it takes away from its own variety in late game, because heavier mechs just are generally better. I think it would benefit if you had something like a weight limit for the mechs you could deploy as well, so you couldn't just always put in your 4 heaviest.
If you did that as well, then the AI would also presumably have to compensate for that, so that they would have to field for each mission. You know, they have a weight limit.
Yeah, I feel like it would have benefited from that, but I think that particular change is definitely too late to make now. But changes to the overall difficulty, it sounds like, is something that they're looking at and making it configurable.
I don't know that it's too late to make that change.
To add a weight limit to each mission you're deploying on?
Yeah, I mean, it would be...
It feels like it's quite fundamental.
It would be a very significant change, but I definitely don't think it's too late to make it. Like, I don't think it's too late for pretty much any game that comes out on the market. Games are pretty fluid nowadays, shall we say? Like, they've become more adaptive in recent years, and expectations around that have changed, so significant reworks to things like that kind of still make sense.
Yeah, so it's definitely more feasible than it would have been if this game were released 10 or 15 years ago.
Sure.
Like, I remember when you had to go onto a game's website to check if there was a patch so that you could download it and install it manually.
I can't even imagine that anymore. Like,
no, yeah.
It's just that the idea of that has just so thoroughly faded from my mind, because I have things that take care of that for me, and now I don't have to think about, oh, are there new patches? Now my focus is on, oh, there is a patch. What has the patch changed?
Mm.
I think that's ultimately a better focus too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot better now than when you had to go manually check for updates.
Yeah. It's got a lot of benefits, I think. Cool.
So that's BattleTech. I've also played a little bit of Monster Hunter, and I'm sure I'll be playing more because they've added another new monster. Oh. This time a returning monster that actually I think last featured in the first Monster Hunter game I played, Monster Hunter Freedom 2 on the PSP, which is Lunastra. It's another Elder Dragon that's the pair with Teostra. Okay. So I tried that just before the show. It is a 15-minute time limit mission to repel it, not kill it. And I failed. So I'm going to have to try it again. It's really interesting though. It's quite different to all the other monsters. It has a lot of like crowd control type stuff. It leaves fire on the ground so you can't stand in places. If you try to stay at a distance, it has a lot of powerful ranged attacks. A lot of stuff is quite wide and sweeping. You have to move around a lot with this monster, and it restricts your movement quite a lot. So it's kind of tough to get the hits in. It's interesting to fight. Clearly, I haven't got the hang of it quite yet, because not only did I not beat it in 15 minutes, but I also fainted 2 out of the 3 possible times during that time. So maybe I should put that down to the few weeks I've had not playing much of the game, but I don't know if I can entirely get away with that.
I mean, I'll let you blame that. Just between you and me, I'll let you blame that.
Okay. Yeah, not like anyone else is listening. Since I haven't beaten one yet, I haven't seen its new equipment, but from what I understand, it has the same armor set it's always had, which is a bit of a disappointment for me because that means it's the first generation armor set, and I think that the armor sets they designed way back when are just not very good compared with the newer ones. But it sounds like the weapons are quite cool. It sounds like the weapons are you make its weapon and then you either upgrade it straight or you upgrade it by adding parts from one of 2 other Elder Dragons. So that's quite neat. I haven't seen what they look like yet, but I'm excited for that. That'll be quite cool. But yeah, it's going to be tough to beat, I think. I might have tried a different weapon. I don't know. I was trying with a long sword. Maybe I'll try it with a hammer instead or something.
My precious longsword, how I miss ye.
Well, like last time I was fighting it, I was definitely using a longsword because I only used a longsword back in those days. So I thought, when I see it again, I should use the same weapon.
I definitely still just I just love the longsword in Monster Hunter. It is definitely still my favorite weapon class to use, as much as I enjoy stuff like the dual blades, and I haven't had the opportunity to try much of the ranged stuff because the ranged controls on the 3DS games are terrible.
Yeah, having an actual proper controller with two analogs makes a hell of a difference.
Oh yeah.
Longsword's really nice just because it's mobile and has good range and decent damage. I'm surprised at how much I've been using the hammer more than the other weapons in World. Like consistently, I've just been using the hammer more, which is nice. It's nice to feel competent with three weapons instead of just one or two.
Mastery always feels great.
I don't know if I'd call it mastery.
Well, I mean,
but sure.
any level of mastery, like you get to a point where you are using a certain thing well.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh yeah, like I feel great. I've really got the hang of this now.
When you get to the point where you're not thinking like, oh, how do I do that move again or anything like that, and you don't need to remember what you press to do this. You just know what you want to do, and your hands make the controller press the buttons that do it. That's the point you want to get to. That's satisfying. Then you can just start thinking about strategy and stuff when you're doing it. That's when it starts to feel really good.
Yeah. All right. Shall we talk about Fallout New Vegas?
Let's go.
Fallout New Vegas is not a game I enjoyed in the past.
Yeah?
Yep. Just straight up didn't like it. Have I discussed my beef with New Vegas on the show? Because I feel like I have.
I feel like you have, but I can't remember it entirely, so let's go again.
Brief reminder. I love Fallout 3. I love Fallout 4. And I love the design of the worlds in that game. New Vegas, the way I remembered it, I just could not give one single shit about that world. It didn't draw me in at all the last time I played it, and it felt very visually plain.
This is very much echoing my own feeling about those games.
Really?
So I think we have consensus.
Okay.
Yeah, I have had a lot of trouble getting into New Vegas, whereas I've quite easily enjoyed Fallout 3 and 4.
Okay. Well, I played Fallout New Vegas for the span of about 8 hours to reset my sleep schedule because I'm a monster, and I was waking up at like 2 in the afternoon. And
8 hours in a row, though.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
6 hours in one session, and then 2 hours in the next. I took a couple hours of break in between to go get a snack and some drinks and breakfast at that point because it was about 6 a.m. when I took that break. So that was where I was at. I just completely I was going through that game, and I had a really good time with
good.
Fallout New Vegas. I like that a hell of a lot more than I remembered liking it. I'm
glad to hear that.
And I think I can chalk that up to the characters and the writing and those things more than the world. The world still feels relatively uninteresting in comparison to everything else.
That's what I've heard from other people as well, that the writing is where the game shines. And I think when I've played it, I've had trouble getting into it far enough to really get into that. Like I said earlier, I always go off the rails, and New Vegas doesn't want you to go off the rails. It's not fun if you don't follow the main story, really.
I think that might be true, because I went through a good chunk of the New Vegas story for the first time there. Mm-hmm. Normally I've gone a little bit off the rails myself and not followed some of the narrative threads through. Like, I made it into New Vegas the last time I played it without actually doing much of the main story. There are whole interactions that I completely passed by. There's some stuff I didn't do this time, mostly because, I was letting myself be invested in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when I was told by a guard, hey, this town kind of sucks right now, maybe don't go through here, I was like, okay, not gonna do that, just gonna walk by. In past runs, I have definitely stopped in to just, just fuck around, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Maya Bird asks, so how did you go about integrating mechanics into your player character? Because I heard it's really tough to angle your way through compared to 3. In terms of mechanics and stuff like that, what I have done is, besides the original stuff that I did in character creation, which was, I think, a little boost to science and guns and a few other things, I've been trying to integrate experience. Like, I've been trying to give myself experience points based on the stuff I did over the course of a level. So
you've been, like, manually doing what the Elder Scrolls games do to you?
Yeah, basically. That's basically what I've been doing. So, like, if I sold a bunch of stuff and maybe bought a few things over the course of that level, I'll bump up my bartering a little bit. Did I try to and maybe fail some speech checks? I'll bump that up because I learned something in the process. Did I use guns? The answer to that was almost definitely. So,
yeah,
I bumped that up a little bit. I had the opportunity to experiment with some other weapons and stuff like that, so I would increase those. So that's been kind of how I have been going through that. Just as I naturally did things, I was increasing my levels in those.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good approach. It worked out pretty okay for me, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately I came away liking that game a lot more than I did in the past. Because I followed that narrative thread, and I got to see some really, really interesting stuff, and immerse myself into my character. Like, over the course of the stream, I was doing, like, a character voice, and I did all of that stuff. I was reading out the actual prompts that I was about to choose, and I got really into it that way.
Who was your character?
My character, I named her Bonnie,
mm-hmm.
and I based her loosely off of Bonnie from Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, so proficient in guns, for the most part. That was, like, the defining trait that I kind of went with. I based the face off of her and, like, made her quite a good shooter. Made her take no bullshit. That was definitely also a consideration. So I had a really good time getting into that character.
Nice.
Yeah. So New Vegas, better than I thought. That's great.
Cool. Yeah, I've thought occasionally of getting back into it, but I don't know if I'd be able to make myself mainline it long enough to get into that good stuff, because I totally believe there is good stuff waiting for me if I did spend 10 hours or so in this game.
Yeah.
It's just my impulse when playing these Fallout games is, screw the story, I'm going to go explore. But every time I've done that in New Vegas, it's just not fun. The world where they don't expect you to go has been really sparse wherever I've looked, and often there's just been really difficult enemies that kill you really quickly.
Yeah.
Which is inconsistent with how the other Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls games that I obviously compare it to have worked. So just every time I've tried to play the games the way I generally enjoy these games, it's been not fun. So that's why I've struggled to get into New Vegas whenever I've tried it.
Yeah. I definitely recommend, if you were to try and get back into it, go for the story.
Fair enough. I reckon though, if I were to try to get back into a Fallout game, it'd be Fallout 4.
Yeah. Did you struggle with getting into, like, that was another game where I really got into the story and got into playing a character, and that was the way I made it through that game, was not by doing a lot of like side exploration or anything, but actually like leaning into my character's personal story.
The story was a lot more compelling in 4 than 3, I found, and part of that is probably just the fact that the people didn't look as much like video game people.
Mm. And it, like, Fallout 4 is quite a bit more directive. Or directed,
yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
Like, Fallout 3 is pretty loose.
What I ended up doing in Fallout 4 was and there's going to be spoilers for Fallout 4 for anyone who still hasn't played it but wants to.
Because actually Dr. Mittens in the chat here is saying that they did not like the end of Fallout 4.
I don't actually know what the end of Fallout 4 is.
Oh no, okay.
But I got to the point where it was kind of clear that when I find my son, he's going to be like 10 years old. So then my character, being clever, figured that out. And thought, oh, well, I guess it's not that urgent then. So I went off and did some other stuff and was happy doing that. So I found my own excuse to make the story not urgent anymore.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But it's fine because I've had fun.
I would recommend getting on that story beat again, even if it's not particularly urgent. That does take some interesting twists. I would recommend it.
Okay. If I go back.
If you go back. I think it's worth it. Like, I had a really good time with that story.
Yeah, I think the times I've tried to go back, and it hasn't been recent, it's been to try the survival mode, which is difficult, but I don't make progression. I definitely don't progress in the story.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've enjoyed the survival aspects of it. So it's why I'm kind of annoyed at the 76 thing, because I like the survival side of it. I just don't want it to be multiplayer. And I'm afraid of the other changes that will come with making it primarily multiplayer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Was there any other leak stuff? Because we kind of went off track on that to talk about 76.
We did. Do we want to talk about more E3 leaks?
Yeah, there's been an Assassin's Creed thing as well, right? Or was that an announcement?
So that Assassin's Creed thing that's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Apparently Assassin's Creed is returning to a yearly release schedule again, which I'm less enthused about, shall we say. But it's an ancient Greek Assassin's Creed. Could be interesting. That will be at E3. I enjoyed Origins, so I'm looking forward to seeing if they can maintain the level of quality that was, like, the bar was set by Origins for the quality of those games, and I am curious if they will be able to maintain it.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I still want them to do one set in China though, because they've had like a side game there, and it feels like it'd be really nice to see them explore that. Egypt was a good choice, I think. Greek feels like it's going a little bit back to their roots of only doing more Western settings. But it'll still be interesting to see.
Okay.
The setting is always the main thing I look for in an Assassin's Creed game, honestly.
Also on the leaks list here, there's a bunch of Switch games that are potentially going to show up at E3, including the most popular game in the world, Fortnite.
Wait, isn't that a shooter?
Yeah, it is.
And they're putting it on a handheld console?
Putting it on the Switch. Yep. I mean, it's got two normal analog sticks. Like it
I suppose
it wouldn't be that inconceivable.
Okay. Seems weird to put a multiplayer shooter on a handheld.
Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate.
Yeah. It's possibly going to be like my 5th console I buy for a Monster Hunter game.
There it is. Because Double Cross was announced like last month, so it's not surprising that now Generations Ultimate is coming.
Generations Ultimate is Double Cross.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so Double Cross has been out in Japan for a long time.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Forget what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, Generations Ultimate is just the Western release of Double Cross. It's just
correct.
taken a long time for localization. And it's Double Cross, I think, has been on the Switch anyway in Japan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was released only for the Switch, I believe.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Could be wrong about that. Dragon Ball FighterZ on the Switch. Which I don't know how I feel about fighting games on there. Just, I don't know that the D-pad or the analog sticks are actually that good.
Yeah, I have no real opinion on that.
Yep, fair enough. New Splinter Cell potentially coming.
New Splinter Cell on the Switch.
Oh no! Okay,
What?
let's get off. Sorry, we are off Switch now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We are gonna get off Switch here. New Splinter Cell is also in the like E3 Potentia here.
Okay.
That was leaked by Walmart as well. You may remember at the top of the game, I mentioned that there was a substantial leak from Walmart Canada by accident. One of those was a new Splinter Cell game, which tracks because very recently Michael Ironside, who was Sam Fisher's original voice actor, was in the studio and did some stuff for Ghost Recon Wildlands, just a little bit of side content for that game. But as many folks have speculated, you don't just get Michael Ironsides into the studio just to do 10 minutes of side content.
It'd be good if they got Sam Fisher's original voice actor to his voice again, to say. Like, the replacement wasn't bad, but it's weird to change a long-standing character's voice.
Yeah. So, Michael Ironside is potentially back in his role as Sam Fisher.
Here's hoping.
Let's see. Forza Horizon 4 would be quite interesting.
Oh, yeah?
That was also potentially leaked. We talked about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The original Borderlands might be getting a re-release, potentially.
That seems odd.
I mean, it tracks with just the sheer amount of remasters and stuff. Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel already came to modern consoles, just not the original.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more of a rumor at this point. We're not sure.
Mm-hmm. I always find it really hard to get excited about re-releases and remasters.
That's fair. Maya Bird asks, I heard there was going to be Pokemon on Switch, right?
There's those like non-mainline Pokemon games.
Yeah,
right?
so there's 2 non-mainline Pokemon games on Switch, like literally right now, I think.
Oh.
Actually, no, there is one that is coming out in the next couple months. There's one that's out now. It was released the other day, like a couple days ago. It was not very long ago at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo has also confirmed that there is a mainline Pokemon game coming to the Switch next year.
Oh, a mainline one?
Yep.
Have they said what it's going to be called yet?
They have not said what it is going to be called yet. They have only confirmed that it is going to be a mainline game.
So a whole new generation of Pokemon again?
Presumably, yeah.
I hope they can do another cat starter and this time not turn it into a gross bodybuilding cat.
Yeah. Just leave Litten alone. Don't evolve Litten. You can't.
I mean, I evolved it once, and then I didn't evolve it a second time.
That's fair. Litten's
Did you see
good.
the like potential Pokemon that didn't end up getting used that got leaked?
The like beta Pokemon that got leaked.
Yeah. They were cool. I enjoyed looking at those.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Pokemon, so I haven't looked too deep into that. I'm going to be honest.
Fair enough. I've played a lot of Pokemon games, so I had a look. It was cool. It was nice to have a look.
I think that about covers it.
Okay. I've got another question actually though. So there's been a whole bunch of leaks. It's the start of June.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this before, but do you have any new E3 predictions now that we're so close?
Any new E3 predictions?
Or hopes, if not predictions. What would you like to see?
Well, hopes. I hope the new Destiny thing is good.
Is that being announced at E3?
It's being announced about a week from now, just a little bit under a week, right before the main E3 celebrations kick off.
Okay.
And believe me, I will be live tweeting and chatting the shit out of those. I
believe you.
Yeah, I will be watching that live. But yeah, I don't really have any substantial predictions here. I'm kind of hoping the new Destiny thing is good after 2, let's say, middling DLCs.
Mm-hmm.
Not super narratively interesting, very much lore Calvin Ball.
Right. Do you think the triangles will show up? I think I asked you that already, didn't I?
The triangles will definitely show up in year 2 stuff. I think that is what they've been leading up to.
Okay.
There is an end game cinematic which shows the Traveler's Light touching the first 2 DLC locations, which was Mercury and Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And then it expands out to show Saturn and then the weird triangle shits. So I would imagine that those 2 bits, since the first 2 DLCs, were done and dusted there, I think we're now going to see a return to Saturn and potentially the Dreadnought, which was a large hive ship that appeared in Destiny 1 as a main explorable hub. I think we might see a return to that, and whatever these triangle things are, we are going to find out all together exactly what those are. And hopefully the Reef will also be back, because that was a really, really cool social space.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you're expecting or hoping for?
That's kind of it. I mean,
yeah?
If we see footage of the new Yakuza Kiwami games, I would love to see that, personally. Because Sega has confirmed that Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 Kiwami are all coming. They are going to be remakes of the PS3 games for the modern generation.
Remakes? Like actual remakes, not just remasters?
Yep.
Wow.
That has been what all of the Kiwami games have been to date.
Okay.
With the original Kiwami also using even some of the same animation rigs and such from the original game. It used those and put them into completely new visuals, which is really, really cool.
Nice.
So those games will probably be... I don't think we'll see them at E3. We might. Last thing, maybe new hardware. Not new console hardware, but new PC hardware. The 1100 series. I would love to see that from NVIDIA. Or whatever AMD's working on. Really curious to see what the future of graphics hardware looks like at the moment.
Hopefully you don't just strap it to your face.
My skepticism about VR remains intense.
Yeah, same.
How about you? You got anything that you are hoping to see this year?
I got a bunch of stuff I'm hoping, but I feel like all the stuff I'm excited about there eventually being more content for, it's probably too soon to hope for a sequel or anything like that, like the XCOM series or a sequel to Horizon, which is very much said Like, at the end of the game, it looked like it was going to be a sequel, and it was a success. So I'm sure one day there'll be one, but it's only been like less than a year and a half since it came out, so I'll be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it like
early
announced.
Development or something.
Yeah, it, like just a really early development build, and we see it announced, and and it's coming in early 2020, or it's coming late 2019.
Yeah. I'd be excited to see that. I know BattleTech have mentioned they are thinking them, at least that they're thinking they might do some paid DLC stuff in the future, but I don't know if we're going to see anything about that so soon.
Okay. If we do, it'll be at the PC Gaming Show for sure.
Yeah.
Paradox usually has a good showing there.
I'd be excited if there was any more Monster Hunter stuff seeds, but so far they've just been releasing stuff pretty quickly instead of like announcing it beforehand, so I'll be surprised if they do it there.
Monster Hunter World PC release date?
Well, there already is one. I think it's September or something. There's been a PC release
as far as I know,
time.
that the release date has disappeared in recent.
Oh, okay. I haven't been following it.
Maya Bird says, "Oh fuck! What if Last of Us 2 Part 2 content? There will definitely be that. I think Sony's confirmed as much."
Oh, cool. I think you've mentioned to me that there's going to be a new Far Cry game. Not Far Cry. Sorry. What's the? How am I forgetting this? The B-movie game.
Just Cause?
Just Cause. Yeah, you've mentioned to me that there's a new Just Cause game that's on the way, right? Or something?
Well, I don't know. Now,
am I making up a memory?
Rage 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that right up at the top of the show. Rage 2 is being worked on as a collaboration between Avalanche, who are known for the Just Cause series, and id Software, who are known for Quake and known for Doom. And so there's some talk that it's going to be kind of a dream team of like some of the best open world design out there with some of the best shooter design out there, and the trailer certainly looks promising. So
sweet. I'm sure we'll see a bunch more of the new Fallout game. I mean, you don't announce something right before June and then not show it off at E3, I guess.
I think that, like, I wonder how, I wonder how that went, I wonder how Fallout 76 stuff is going to play out. Because the other thing that I can think of...
How do you mean?
Is, well, Fallout seems like a pretty safe bet moneymaker, even if it's in a multiplayer form. Where Starfield, a game that we pretty much know is coming.
That's
to
what I was
E3.
going to say. I'm sure we'll see more of that. Yeah.
Like, we pretty much know Starfield is going to be there and shown off for the first time ever.
I hope it looks like something I'll like.
So, if it is, like, I hope it is too. I really hope it is. But that seems like less of a surefire bet. So, it kind of makes sense that this Fallout 76 stuff is happening. Again, it's definitely a surefire, it's a surefire moneymaker. And Starfield is the unknown quantity, so I'm thinking there has to be a tactical reason for Bethesda to have that kind of timing.
If it weren't for that announcement and for Starfield, I'd be saying I'd hope we'd see a new single-player Elder Scrolls game, but that seems so remote considering those two things.
Yeah, I think they've said that that's coming eventually.
Yeah, eventually, right?
Yeah,
eventually.
I think. Let's say by end of 2019, if we don't see some sort of official announcement on Elder Scrolls 6, I'll be kind of surprised.
Yeah, he's hoping.
I mean,
we miss those games.
It's been 7 years since Skyrim. Almost.
Well, six and a half years.
It's like 6 3/4 even. Like
6.5.
Yeah.
It was November, and we've been 6 and a bit months since then.
By the way.
But yeah, that would be nice, but I'm not expecting it anymore, considering they've got 2 other games they're probably going to be showing off. Can't think of anything else.
No, I'm out of stuff that I can think of as well.
Yeah.
Meyerberg says, I think as long as ESO is doing well, they won't make an ES6. It's possible that is the case.
I'd be really disappointed if that's the case. I tried getting into ESO and I just couldn't. It was too MMO-y for me. It didn't have any of the things I enjoyed about Elder Scrolls games.
I mean, that's just had another major expansion that's just launched. So
there you go.
That game is clearly doing well enough to continue to warrant producing huge chunks of content for it. So even with no sub fees or anything like that, clearly something is being done that people like there. Even if it's not something that we particularly like.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the one hand, it's nice for an Elder Scrolls game to be popular, but on the other hand, I don't want it to stop them making another one that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame for me that they're getting away from their roots when it's their roots that I think are good.
Yeah. Maya pointing out that live services are definitely all the rage right now, and various companies have deferred new dev stuff for their existing online games, like Rockstar with GTA 5 Online, which, by the way, easily one of the worst things about GTA in general. The online sucks. It's bad. GTA.
Yeah, for all the potential it could have had, being able to play a GTA game with someone else, I agree.
It's just a fucking grind fest. That's all it is, and it's not even a good grind fest. It's not entertaining. It's just do this 5 billion shitty tasks over and over again.
And they have terrible character customization. It's terrible.
Yeah. Welcome to hell.
Oh, I'm sure we'll see Red Dead Redemption 2 stuff as well. Speaking
maybe,
of Rockstar.
I hope that game is good. I hope that they don't put too much of the online, too much into the online on that, because I would be really, really fucking bummed. Can I also just say, I'm really bummed about the amount of shit that is in GTA Online that is straight up not available in the single player stuff at all. There's whole new sets of vehicles and outfits and all this stuff that is just not available in the main single-player game. And every time I think about that, I get really angry.
To be fair, the best part of Grand Theft Auto 5 is not in the online multiplayer, which is the Dolphin Punch.
The what, sorry?
The Dolphin Punch. When you jump forward and then you press punch in midair and your character ragdolls and just does a flying headbutt into whatever they were facing.
Ah, okay.
It's the best part of the game, but you can't do it in the online stuff. You can only do it in single player.
What a bummer.
Right? It was the best thing. You just go up to, I don't know, some outdoor furniture or a car, and you jump in it and then press punch, and you just headbutt it. Flying headbutt. And fall over and get up and do it again. It's the best. All right. Yep. So,
shall we
what
wrap?
are you looking forward to playing this week? Yeah.
This week I am looking forward to playing more Persona 5 because that is a very good game.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to spending some more time with Fallout New Vegas on stream. I'm also in the Crew 2 beta. Yep, that is a racing game. It is got some MMO elements, I believe, from the as a carryover from the first game. It might be a little bit less intense now. I think it may even be possible to play that whole game single player. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm defo interested in giving that a shot since I have access to the closed beta.
Nice. Yeah.
and racing games are very much up my alley. So I'm interested.
Yeah, you've been enjoying them a lot lately. It's really cool.
Sorry, what was that?
You've been playing them a lot lately and enjoying them. It's really cool.
Yeah, I found my groove again with racing games. How about you? What are you looking forward to playing this week?
I'm sure I'll play more Monster Hunter and try to beat the Lunastra and have a look at its gear.
Mm-hmm.
The other two I've kind of got going on the side. There's Battletech and God of War. I don't know if or how much of those I'll play. I haven't played that much over this past week because I've been working on one of my projects, and now another one. I've had a bunch of data released to me that I can finally start to analyze. So I might be spending a bunch of my time in the evenings doing that. So I don't know how much gaming I'll be doing, but I'm sure I'll play some more Monster Hunter at the very least.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Cool. Well, I think that concludes this episode of PauseCast. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to support the show, we have a few ways you can do that. First, you can give us a rating or review on your service of choice. Every time you do that, it helps us out. We also have a couple of ways that you can financially support us. If you go to bit.ly/pausecoffee, you can donate to our coffee. This allows you to set up a small one-time donation, and that's it. That you can just directly support us that way. We also have a Patreon. You can support us by going to patreon.com/pausecastshow and contributing month to month. Thank you to all of our current patrons. Sammy, Mary, Para, Dove, Corey Bat, Residoke, Ash, Moth, and Gray for their continued support of the show.
Thank you.
You can also find the show online. The show's at PauseCast Show on Twitter. And you can email stuff to the show, pausecastshow@gmail.com. Mark, where can people find you specifically online?
I'm on Twitter at HonestUniverse, and I write a blog as well, though not about video games, at honestuniverse.com. How about you?
Before we talk about me here, you also have published some interesting stuff on your blog recently. Do you want to talk about that?
Okay. I've been working on and off on some data analysis on police pursuits since about February, and early this week I published that in a new subdomain on my blog where I can do some more custom web dev stuff instead of in WordPress. So I don't have a very nice URL for it, but if you want to check it out, features.honestuniverse.com/police-pursuits, we'll get to that article. It's exciting, though, because it also got republished on the spin-off and on NewsHub.
Yep, I saw that. Congratulations on getting republished there. All right, so if you go to bit.ly/nzpursuits, you can find Mark's article about police pursuits in New Zealand.
That's way easier. Thanks for doing that.
No problem. You can feel free to use that as much as you would like. And you can find, as for myself, though, you can find me on Twitter at TealQT, or you can find me on Twitch at MaximumGun.org. Thank you to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. You can find Leon's music and download some of it for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. All right, and that is going to do it for us this week on PauseCast. Again, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you listening every week. Until next week, see you around.
Bye.